Hello everyone, it's Elizabeth here. Today in this live video I want to talk about collaboration as one of the 5 roadblocks to project success. And there's 4 other roadblocks as well, which I will come on to. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how you can overcome those challenges as well, because there are always things that go wrong on projects, but if you are armed with some strategies about how to deal with that, you can help your project move forward in a more effective way. So I've kind of mentioned the first one already, which is collaboration. A lack of collaboration is a massive roadblock for your project. Projects are done by teams. Teams need to work together. So whether that's you and a colleague working on a very small project, or whether that is you, a 200-person team and 50 suppliers, collaboration needs to happen on your projects for them to be successful. So when you are not in a collaborative mindset and when you are not working with a team that embraces collaboration, that can be a real problem for you. What can you do about it? Well, there are a number of things you can do about it. Technology can help. So it's not the be-all and end-all, but having technology solutions that allow you to work together on documents, to be able to share things in the cloud, all that kind of collaborative technology will help bring the team together, as long as people have the right kind of attitude and are prepared to share their knowledge and are prepared to work together. So some of it is a mindset thing. The second roadblock that you may well come across is you just haven't got enough people or enough resources of other types. Everybody is stretched for resources on their projects. You can't just skip this roadblock and move on. I think it's hugely likely that you will hit a project in your career where you just feel like you haven't got enough stuff or enough people. You are all stretched too thin. This is happening all around the world. Loads and loads of project managers that I talk to say that this is their #1 roadblock and they're worried about it. And rightly so, because it's not just people, it's access to materials, access to meeting rooms. Goodness, that's a big one as well. Access to specialized resources, specialized people who are perhaps supporting multiple projects like procurement experts, things like that. So what can you do about it? Right, well, planning. Plan as much as you can and book what you need as early as you can. Stick to your schedule. That is a great way of making sure that people know what they need to do at the right time. It's also really important to take into account things like holidays, leave time, training, and to not schedule your resources at 100%. Because if you schedule them at 100% and then they go to the toilet, you will find that they will not get enough work done in the day. It's unrealistic to book people on your 8 hours of work in an 8-hour working day. So just bear that in mind when you are scheduling your resources, because it helps you stay on top of your plan and you are not getting people behind from day one where they first started working out. So do your planning. If you still can't make it fit, and if you still don't feel that you can get all the work done, then you need to talk to your project sponsor. You might need to change the dates. You might need to get more resources added to the project. Not an easy situation to be in, but best that you know about it up front and in advance instead of later on. Right, the third roadblock, poor prioritization. I see this a lot as well. People are really, really busy, but they're actually not working on the things that add the most value or that should be their priority tasks. So project managers struggle because their teams are not prioritizing their work effectively. You might give somebody 15 tasks to do as part of a bigger project, and they're working on the task that doesn't need to be finished for another couple of months, but the paper that you need to take to the board next week is not ready. Some people are just naturally not able to do that, or they just don't see the bigger picture, or that they want to work on the things that are the most fun first, or if the board paper looks difficult, they'll leave that to the end because it's the tricky task. I think as project managers, we tend to be quite naturally organized, and it's difficult for us to accept, perhaps, that other people don't think like we do. So there might be some people in your team who need extra support around prioritizing their work in a non-patronizing way. You don't want to sit with them and tick off the things that they need to be doing, but you can help direct them by giving them clear priorities so that you can get what you need to do done. The other thing that can help with prioritization is that you make sure that you know where your project sits in the overall scheme of things. So for example, if you're working on a highly strategic, very important project, pretty much any task that is related to that project should be the first thing on someone else's to-do list, even if they are a resource working on 3 or 4 different projects. However, that goes the other way as well. If your project is a nice to have, not very strategically important, you need to accept that your tasks will be the bottom of the pile for the people who are working on your project, because the strategic projects will pull their focus, and that is the right thing for the business. So I think there comes a point as project managers where we just have to accept the fact that we are not top of the tree. Our projects are not the most important thing, and you have to manage around that. The fourth roadblock is poor planning. Oh, I see this all the time as well. Mainly in situations where projects and project managers have not planned up front, even just for a few weeks. I mean, I'm a big fan of doing short-term horizon planning. So I would typically only plan in detail for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then I would, have indicative milestones going out. But because of a lot of what I work on has a great deal of uncertainty. We're not agile, but we work with a lot of specialist resources, and the scope of what we do tends to evolve quite quickly over time. So there doesn't seem any point in, it's not like building a bridge. You don't know how it's going to end. So you can only plan a certain period of time, but you can still do that much up front. And then people know what they're working on for the next couple of weeks, and you can allocate rolling tasks based on that and based on how the project is evolving. So it's not an excuse to not plan. But I often see projects starting without enough adequate planning at the beginning. I know it's a fact of life. You must really, really resist and spend enough time planning upfront in however much detail you need to, so that you have a structure. You need a spine to hang your project off of. And your project sponsors need to accept that. So even if it means delaying the start of the work for a week or 2, just do it. Crack on with as much planning as you can do, and carry on planning as well. Keep going back to your plan, revise your plan, make sure that your schedule is accurate so that you know what's happening at every point. Okay, finally, the fifth roadblock I think that the projects often suffer from is not having enough money. People have massive expectations of what can be delivered, and people have this much money to do it with. This is a modern day business problem where senior managers, come up with fantastic ideas, don't think it through, don't properly cost it, go, yay, let's do it. And then suddenly halfway through they go, oh, look, we didn't put the IT software licenses into the budget for the next 3 years. And actually total cost of ownership for this project is massive. So not having enough money can be a real problem. That kind of issue that I've just described about total cost of ownership should be flushed out by doing proper business cases. So if your business doesn't do those, you need to start thinking about how you can lobby your management team and your PMOs to be able to do proper business cases so that you know how much these projects are going to cost for their lifespan, not just for the CapEx delivery for the first 3 weeks or whatever. However, there's another fundamental issue, and that is often when you start a project, like the work I do, you don't exactly know how it's going to end. And that means, how do you know how much it's going to cost if you don't even know what work you're going to do? It's a real issue. So you need to think about phasing the budget, chunking up the work, doing small mini business cases, using a program or portfolio management structure. There are things that you can do to try to get your handle on the amount of money that needs to be spent at any one time. You can cost out a phase, for example, secure the funding for that, cost out the next phase. Even if you have some indicative budget that you can't quite get your hands on yet, you've got some idea of where this is all going. Okay, so the most important thing with budgeting, I think, is just keep monitoring. Track every penny that leaves the budget, even if it hasn't actually left the bank. Because at some point, somebody's going to say, how much is your project committed? And even if you haven't had the invoices in, the spend is still committed if you said go ahead to the vendor and you raise the purchase order. So you need to know how much money is committed, because eventually you're going to pay that money, aren't you? Eventually the invoices will come and you will pay the money from the bank. So it is important to stay on top of your project finances. It gives you information as well that you can pass up to your project sponsors and let them know how the budget is evolving over time, and you can forecast whether you will actually have enough. Those are 5 common roadblocks that I see time and time again on projects. And yeah, there are things you can do about them. It's a case of trying to do your risk management, identifying what might go wrong, and then putting your strategies in place. I hope that's been useful. Have a great day.